Hello everyone, I'm Isabelle Fayol, I'm a journalist, and we're here in Paris at Leonard for Building Beyond. Welcome to this new episode. Today, let's talk about electrification for industry. So with us today to discuss, Nicolas Berghmans. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
To start, can you introduce IDDRI and what you're working on?
So IDDRI is a think tank based in Paris. It stands for Institute for Sustainable Development and International Relations. So our expertise are on the negotiations on environmental topics at a global and European level. I'm working especially on the question of new industrial policies that we've seen emerging in different parts of the world in the past years.
What precisely is meant by new industrial policy?
New industrial policies is about the tools that we've seen emerging in the past years in different contexts, where policymakers are more and more using trade tools, subsidies, regulations to orient the productive activities to follow certain societal goals. So these societal goals can be addressing environmental issues, but it can be also about addressing the resilience risk on the economy. We've seen, for example, more and more geographies trying to push domestic production as a way to secure the value chain of their economy. And we started to study that.
What is globally, in general, the need in electrification?
So electrification is part of this new agenda. There's two needs that electrification is addressing. On the one side, it's about addressing climate change, the climate change risk, because we know how to decarbonize the economy through electrification. We have the means of production of low-carbon electricity. We're talking about nuclear, renewables, that are low carbon today and that are competitive. And on the other side, it's also about reducing the exposure of economies that are importing fossil fuels to the geopolitical risk. So we've seen that in Europe with Ukraine, that had the consequence of reducing the imports of natural gas and increasing the price on the international markets. We're seeing that again with the crisis in the Middle East that is directly translated into international markets where the price of fossil fuels are really volatile and increase a lot. So this is a key factor of vulnerability for certain economies. Electrification can be an answer to that risk too, because when you produce electricity, you produce it at home and you're not exposed or not at the same level at the impact of this geopolitical crisis.
In which sectors we really need to electrify?
Well, the good news is that we have solutions to electrify in many different sectors. So we have it in the transport sector with electromobility, we have it in the building sector with heat pumps, to give an example, and in the industrial sector also with electric boilers, electrification processes with heat pumps are also important in the sector. So the technologies are there. What we need is the means to accelerate the pace of electricity, because if we need to address the climate crisis, it's climate neutrality by 2050, we need to strongly accelerate that, and also to decrease the vulnerabilities of our economy. So all this means we need to accelerate.
Now, what are the good conditions to increase electrification in the EU?
Electrification is a major challenge for industry. When we talk about electrification and industry, there's two different things. On the one side, it's increasing the use of electricity in our industrial processes, and on the other side is developing the industries we need for the products for the electrification of the economy. On this aspect, we are talking about the production of batteries, the production of heat pumps, the production of wind farms, PV, solar panel, and so on. And on this front, the question is creating these new industries at the scale we need for the electrification of the whole economy. On the other side, we need to electrify existing industries. So we're talking there about, for example, the way we produce iron and steel, the way we produce chemical products. And in these industries, actually, we need to change the processes and change the way we use energy in these industries. There's a strong need for accompanying the companies in these processes on two sides. One, making electricity available for them. It means improving the grids, continuing to invest in the production of clean electricity. And on the second side, often the products today that are produced with more electricity are green products, green materials that are more expensive than the alternative on fossil energy. So we need to create markets for these greener products And there you have also a role to play in shaping demand in buildings, in the transport sector, and in industrial products.
What could be the business model?
The ideal business model in the long term would be simply to have electricity more and electrification solution more attractive than the fossil ones. One key aspect of it is the price, the relative price of energies. When you know and you have the certainty over the long term that electricity will cost you less for heating your process, for driving your car, you're going to invest into this solution. And then once you invested in it, well, actually you use more electricity and you decrease your energy bill, your fossil energy bill, especially in economies that are importing this. So the relative price of electricity compared to the alternative is a key aspect of that needs to change for improving the business model of electricity.
So it has to be available and affordable.
It has to be available and affordable. Actually, we need to align what we call market signals, economists call it like that, to our goal of electrifying. And actually, it's not something that is not doable. We've seen some countries taking this action. So one example is Denmark, that has decreased its level of tax on electricity to the lowest level possible, so €1 per megawatt hour. To give a comparison, in France we are 28, and in the past Denmark was taxing electricity at €90 per megawatt hour. So that makes a huge difference both for consumers, residential consumers and industrial consumers. And the second thing that needs to happen is also a priority on an organization to connect new installations that will need more electricity to the grid, electricity grid. And there, actually the role of regulation is key, because it's the governments that orient the choices of energy networks.
How to reduce industrial and financial risks?
So two things. The stability of regulation is important. So once you set a direction for the economy, for example, if you have an objective of electrifying, we shouldn't change this. And actually, when we look at what happened on the regulation on vehicles in Europe, we actually introduced some uncertainty on the market in 2035 by touching about a key objective that was adopted a few years ago. So this is something that we should be very careful about, touching these long-term directions. And then we should follow through with financial incentives, aligning economic signals that are coherent with these objectives. And there, actually, it's about the political will and political decisions to influence the price of energy. The price of energy is influenced by energy taxes, and it's a huge lever that the government can use to orient the choice of economic actors.
So industrial companies need long-term visibility, I suppose.
And the last thing is for industrial companies, actually, we need also long-term visibility. Why is that? It's because when you invest in an industrial site, actually you're investing for 25, 30, sometimes even 50, 60 years. So when you invest in these new processes, you need this visibility at least for, let's say, 10, 15 years ahead to be sure that you're making the right choice.
What's possible to achieve over the next 5 years?
Actually, a lot, because if we look at technologies, more than 60% of current energy demand in industry can be covered with the technological solutions we have today. Heat pumps, to give an example. So we can do a lot if we adjust the policy mix to improve this electrification. One data just to show that it's possible, in China, we're reaching the level of 32% of energy demand that is coming from electricity, and it's growing by 1 point every year. It's possible to do it.
How to drive the electrification in the EU?
So what we need is a clear direction. So I think objectives matter and strategy matter. And the second thing is to adjust the policy mix. Two things: the economic signals are important, and second, how we organize, how we modernize our grids at the pace needed is another factor that will be key for European actors.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. It's crystal clear.